But I have even better ones of children. I have lots more of Russian children, Alyosha. A little girl of 5 was abused by her parents. Decent and most respectable people, well educated and cultured. You see, once more, I firmly maintain that in many people's hearts there's a particular trait that's a delight in torturing children, but only children. Toward the rest of humanity, these same torturers are considerate, even gentle, as befits educated and humanitarian Europeans, but they love to torture children. In a sense, that's their way of loving children. It's precisely the defenselessness and the angelic trust of children that seduces these cruel people. The children have nowhere to run and no one to turn to. That's what inflames their vile instincts in the torturer. Of course, in every person there lurks a beast, a demon of fury, whose passions are inflamed by the cries of the victim, with an unrestrained wild beast loosed from his chains. These educated parents subjected that poor little 5-year-old to every conceivable torture. They beat her, whipped her, kicked her until she was black and blue, all for no reason. Finally, they thought of the ultimate punishment. They shut her up all night outside the privy, in the cold and the frost, because she wet herself at night, as if a 5-year-old sleeping soundly like an angel could excuse herself in time. For this, they smeared her face with her excrement and forced her to eat it. And it was her mother, who did this to her. And that mother slept unconcernedly at night, oblivious to the sobs of the poor child shut up in that foul place. Can you understand such a thing? That a small child, unable to even comprehend what is being done to her, in the dark and the cold of that foul place, beating her little panting breast with tiny fists, sobbing, weeping humble tears of blood-stained innocence, praying to dear Father God to protect her. Do you understand this obscenity, my friend, my brother, my holy and meek monk? Do you understand why such an obscenity should be necessary? And what is the point of it? They say that without it, man could not live on this earth, for he would not understand the difference between good and evil. Well, why should one understand the damned difference between good and evil if that's the price to be paid? All the knowledge in the world is not worth that child's tears to dear Father God. I'm not talking about the suffering of adults. They have eaten the apple. They can go to the devil and suffer all the fires of hell. It's the little ones, the children, Alyosha. It was not for that I suffered, that I, evil sinner that I am with my agonies and misdeeds, might be exploited for the benefit of someone else's future harmony. I want to see the lion lying down with the lamb with my own eyes, and the murdered rising up and embracing their murderers. I want to be here when suddenly everyone finds out the why and the wherefore of everything. This is the desire on which all religions on earth are based, and I am a believer. But then what about the children? What shall I do about them? That's the question I cannot answer. For the 100th time I repeat, the questions are endless, but I am only considering the children, because their case is what I have to say is uncontrovertibly clear. Listen, if everyone has to suffer in order to bring about eternal harmony through that suffering, tell me please, what have the children to do with this? It is quite incomprehensible that they too should have to suffer, that they should have to pay for the harmony by their suffering. Why should they be the grist for someone else's mill, the means of enduring someone's future harmony? I understand the universality of sin, I understand the universality of retribution, but children have no part in this universal sin. And it is true that they are stained with the sins of their fathers, then of course that's a truth that's not of this world, and I don't understand it. I understand how the universe will shake when the heaven and earth shall unite in a single paean of praise, and all that lives and has lived will cry out, "You are just, O Lord, for your ways are revealed to us." When the mother embraces the murderer, whose dogs tore apart her son, and all three shall cry out weeping, "Oh, you are just, Lord." That, of course, will be the summit of all knowledge, and all will be explained. But here's the snag. That's just what I can't accept. And while I'm still on this earth, I resort to my methods. You see, Alyosha, perhaps it really will happen like that, and I shall live to see it, or be resurrected. And then perhaps I too, seeing the mother embracing the child's torturer, will cry out in unison with them, "Oh, you are just, Lord." But it is against my will. While there's still time, I want to guard myself against this, and therefore I absolutely reject that higher harmony. It's not worth one little tear, from one single little tortured child beating its breast with its little fist in that foul-smelling lockup and praying with its unexpiated tears to its dear Father God. No, it's not worth this, because those tears have to remain unexpiated. And they have to be expiated, otherwise there can be no harmony. But how? How can they be expiated? Surely this isn't possible. Or is it going to be done by avenging them? But what's the good of avenging them? What's the good of consigning their murderers to hell? What good can hell do to the children who have already been tortured to death? And how can harmony exist if hell exists too? I want forgiveness. I want to embrace everyone. I want to end suffering. And if the suffering of children is required to make up the total suffering necessary to attain the truth, then I say here and now that no truth is worth such a price. And above all, I don't want the mother to embrace the torturer whose dogs tore her son apart. She has no right to forgive him. Let her, if she will, forgive him her own suffering, her own anguish as a mother, but she has no right to forgive him the suffering of her mutilated child. Even if the child himself forgives, she has no right. And if that is so, if the right to forgive does not exist, then where is harmony? Is there in this world a single being who could forgive and has the right to do so? I don't want harmony. For the love of humankind, I don't want it. I would rather that suffering were not avenged. I would prefer to keep my suffering unavenged and my abhorrence unplacated, even at the risk of being wrong. Besides, the price of harmony has been set too high. We can't afford the entrance fee. And that's why I hasten to return my entry ticket. If I ever want to call myself an honest man, I have to hand it back as soon as possible, and that's exactly what I'm doing. It's not God that I don't accept, Alyosha. I am just, with the utmost respect, handing him back my ticket. That's rebellion, Alyosha said quietly without looking up. Rebellion? I wouldn't have expected to have heard such a word from you, said Ivan thoughtfully. Can one life live in a state of rebellion? For I want to live. Tell me honestly. I challenge you. Answer me. Imagine that you are charged with building the edifice of human destiny, whose ultimate aim is to bring people happiness, to give them peace and contentment at last. But in order to achieve this, that it is essential and unavoidable to torture just one little speck of creation, that same little child, beating her breast with her little fists. And imagine that this edifice has to be erected on her unexpiated tears. Would you agree to be the architect under these conditions? Tell me honestly. No, I wouldn't agree, said Alyosha quietly.